I have a question. Is a striker who's on pace to break one of the most untouchable records in European football, a record that stood for 15 years and has scored 50 goals in 42 club appearances, would that season be worthy of a Ballon d'Or? What about a wide player who has more assists than any other player in Europe, 29 of them, and who tore apart one of the greatest clubs in the world at their own stadium, almost 50 goal involvements, and he's only 24 years old? Or what about a teenager at 18 years old who's already put up 23 goals and 18 assists this season, and who some of the most respected voices in football are calling the best player on the planet right now? After finishing second best a year ago, this player performed even better this season. Is a player like that worthy of the Ballon d'Or? Or what about a man playing for the most dominant team of Europe, spearheading a side looking to win back-to-back Champions League, despite him having the lowest numbers of output of the three, consistently showing up in the most important moments? Does being the best player on the best team win the Ballon d'Or? Now, the answers to every single one of those questions is yes. Those seasons are worthy of a Ballon d'Or. But what if all four of those seasons are happening at the same time? Four players, four legitimate cases, and with the Champions League semi-finals well on the way and a World Cup coming, who is actually going to win this Ballon d'Or? Well, it depends on who you ask and what they really value. Let's start with the most obvious case and the most eye-popping numbers. 50 goals. That's not a normal number. Robert Lewandowski scored 41 Bundesliga goals in the 2020-2021 season, and it became one of the most celebrated records in European football, a record that stood for 15 years after Gerd Müller set it in 1972. Kane is on pace to match it, or even beat it, and he's doing it across all competitions, not just the Bundesliga. And the efficiency is what makes this season different. He's not just scoring a lot, he's barely missing a 30% conversion rate, the best of his career, and a goal every 69 minutes or so. In a Bayern side that's playing well and creating chances regularly, Kane is the clinical finisher at the end of it all. And Kane is doing it in the big moments too. He scored in both legs of Bayern's quarter-final win over Real Madrid, his team is in the Champions League semi-finals, and they're cruising to yet another Bundesliga title. Everything around him is working. But here's the argument against Kane, and it's pretty much the same argument that followed Robert Lewandowski for years. Goals alone have not won the Ballon d'Or in the modern era. Rodri won it while playing in defensive midfield. Messi and Ronaldo dominated partly because they were the best players on the best teams in the most important competition. And Lewandowski's 41 goal record didn't even win him the Ballon d'Or that season. Kane's case is real. It might be the most statistically dominant in all of football this season. But the question is, do the voters reward this level of consistency and this statistical output versus being the best player on the best team? If Harry Kane is making his case with goals, Michael Olise is making it with everything else. 18 goals and 29 assists. And no, that is not a typo. 29 assists in any major European competition. We're talking about one of the highest single season assist tallies in modern football. Olise is doing it in the Bundesliga while also running riot in the Champions League. And then there's the Bernabeu. Winning the Ballon d'Or is partly about moments, and there are no bigger moments than Real Madrid in the quarter-final. Olise didn't just play well, he made the greatest club stadium in the world look like a training pitch. He ran at defenders, created chance after chance, and then put the tie to bed with an outrageous long strike in the return leg with the last kick of the game. Those are Ballon d'Or moments, the type that gets played in replay packages for years to come. His only vulnerability, Olise might still not be the household name that a guy like Harry Kane or some of the other candidates are, but a strong World Cup with France, and that could see him get over the line in terms of winning this Ballon d'Or. There's a conversation happening in football right now that seemed absurd 2 years ago. People, serious football people, are starting to say that Lamine Yamal, at 18 years old, might already be the best footballer in the world. Not the best teenager, not the most exciting prospect, the best player in the entire world. And when you look at the numbers, it becomes hard to argue. 23 goals, 18 assists, and an average SofaScore rating of 8.08. And Barcelona are cruising to yet another league title with him as their best player. And he hasn't even reached his peak yet. He's 18 years old. In nearly 70 years of the Ballon d'Or, no player under 21 has ever won it. But the Ballon d'Or has never seen a player like Lamine Yamal. The problem for Yamal is timing. Barcelona were knocked out of the Champions League in the quarterfinals by Atletico Madrid, and in a Ballon d'Or race that will almost certainly be decided by what happens in Europe's biggest competition, Yamal is now relying on one competition, one tournament to carry his case. If Spain win the World Cup and he's the main man behind it all, the Ballon d'Or might just follow. But if they don't, the case gets much harder. The talent is undeniable, his ceiling is unmatched, but the question is, will the voters actually reward that? And finally, the defending champ. There are two players in the history of the Ballon d'Or who have ever defended the award: Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. That's it. in nearly 70 years. Defending this award has been one of the hardest things to do in football, and last season Ousmane Dembele had one of the most improbable individual campaigns in the history of the award. 46 goal involvements and more than double his previous best in a single season. He carried PSG to their first ever Champions League title, scoring in the knockouts at Liverpool and Arsenal, and providing 2 assists in a 5-0 final demolition of Inter Milan. And then almost immediately, people wrote him off for this season. The narrative around Dembele this season is that he's dropped off, that last year was a miracle run, and this version is just a good player. 16 goals and 8 assists. It's respectable, but it's not last year's numbers. And then came Anfield, PSG versus Liverpool in the Champions League quarter-finals, one of the most iconic venues in European football. And Dembele scored twice in a 2-0 win that could put PSG back on course with back-to-back European titles. It's the kind of performance that makes voters sit up, and it's the kind of performance that wins titles. And if PSG do it again, if they lift that trophy in the final, the conversation around Dembele defending the award becomes very difficult to ignore. He's not having a bad season, he's just peaking at the exact right moment. So 4 players, 4 completely legitimate cases. Who should actually win this Ballon d'Or? Here's how it plays out depending on what you value. If you think the Ballon d'Or should go to the player who dominated the individual statistics, who was most prolific, most efficient, and most machine-like scorer in European football, then Harry Kane has a case that's almost impossible to argue with. History will remember these numbers. If you think it should go to the player with the most complete impact, the one who created the most, threatened defenders the most, and delivered the biggest individual performance of the European season, then Michael Olise and that Bernabeu night make a very, very, very compelling argument. But if you think the Ballon d'Or should reward the footballer who is right now simply the best in the world regardless of age, then Lamine Yamal's numbers and the way he plays leaves very little room for debate. He just needs this World Cup to confirm it. And if you think the award should go to the player who delivers on the biggest stage when the trophy is on the line, who has already shown he can and is doing it again, then Ousmane Dembele is walking towards back-to-back Ballon d'Ors and nobody can stop him. It all comes down to 3 more Champions League fixtures and the World Cup. That is who will take home this award. Let me know in the comments who you think takes it and why.